Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Egidio, and today we'll start our short videos based on CS50's web programming with Python and JavaScript course from Harvard and accessed on the edX platform. Alright, so this first video will be about HTML and CSS. If you enjoy it, hit the like button. And also, if you want to become a developer without a university degree, check the link in the description from Doors Coding School. You'll like it, alright? HTML and CSS. If we resume all the stuff, HTML will be the structure of your page, and CSS will be how cool your structure is. Why I say like that? Because HTML takes all the main parts of your website and identify the content. When we read an HTML file, we'll see what is the text, what are your images, where are your images in your website, if you have any tables as part of your content, if you have forms to put information from your users or search parts. So this is where we define how structured our website will be. So let's start with HTML. HTML, the hypertext markup language, defines the structure of your page. So if we check a simple HTML file, you see the type of the document, that's the default, it's an HTML file, right? The language of your web page, if it's English or Spanish or Portuguese or any other one, right? You see the head of your page, the content that you can see it at the top of your browser, such as Chrome, and also the body, the main part of your web page. And when you execute your HTML file, you see as a normal web page. You can download the file on your computer and run it using your web browser, and you see this simple example showing in front of you through your web browser, right? So HTML is different when we compare with like Python or Java or any other programming language, because the main reason of using HTML is that you identify every single information inside the file. So you need to use tags. Tags are these things with the less than and the greater than signs that when we use this, we are defining that everything between these tags is a title. The same as the body, and the slash body defines that everything between these tags are the body. So when you see a document, an HTML document, and you notice that some tags start and end on the same line, on the same row, in the same row, and other ones use multiple rows. Well, for HTML, this doesn't make a difference, okay? It's just how easy it is to read these files. So do as you prefer, all right? Do as your content is easier to be read by another programmer or another user, okay? I would say that for HTML, the most important thing is to know the main tags to be used and how to use these tags to create the structure of your page and also the structure of the file itself. So in an HTML file, you can use like headings, lists, forms, put a lot of images inside your web page, or you can comment just to make it easy for other programmers to understand your code. Okay, so you put a comment like this is the form that the user puts his data. Okay, or this is the main user's photo. Besides defining the main parts of your HTML file, such as the head part or the body part, you can identify the content. How important is the title? This is the H tags. Okay, so you have the H1 tag, that's the main heading content. You have the H2, the H3, 4, 5, etc. So the H1 is the biggest heading. The H2 is the almost the best heading, if we can say like that. And H6 will be the smallest heading. And also you can like stress and customize your content with other tags such as strong or the I tag that will italicize the word. You can define lists and the items of these lists can be ordered lists or unordered lists. The unordered ones will have that marks that usually are sometimes squares, little circles, or the ordered list that will be numbers or letters. If you want to put an image in your HTML file, it's really important to put the source of this image, where this image is located. So if it is in the same folder of your workspace, or if it's in your desktop, or sometimes if it's online, uh, HTML can access all this information. And another attribute of this image tag is the alt, the alternative text that describes what that image is. It's a really nice element to use so you can make your web page accessible for all users on the internet. All right, it's really nice. You have the break row, the BR tag that will make some spaces on your page. And you have tables, such as an Excel table. You'll need to define the heads, the titles of the columns. All right. So you have a table head, and you have the body of the body of the table where the content will be. So if you have a table with three heads with three column titles, when you define a new table row, you need to define three contents, one for each column. All right. And sometimes we get like worried about, oh my god, there's so much tags, there's so much things new here that I can't remember. So don't worry about that. In the next videos you'll see a lot of new content, a lot of new information that will give you a lot of power. But don't worry, you have the internet. We can check all this information again. There are a lot of there are a lot of nice websites where you can check the main tags of HTML, the main features of Git, the questions and answers about Python. So don't worry, okay? Let's just use what we remember, and if you don't remember, let's search. And probably the most important part of your web page will be the form. If you're creating your profile like on Google or another big company, you need to put some information to create your account, right? You need to put your name, your email, your password, and other information. But this is a form, all right? So this is where you can interact with the page and create this link between your user and between the user and the page, between the user and the company. And when you create a form tag, when you create a form in your HTML file, you define what will be the inputs. So an input can be your name and the password. It can be a list that you can choose from the options, from the available options. And in the end, you have to submit the final button that will basically save this information and process it to do your desires. Right, so now we'll be talking about the style of our page. So now we have seen the tags from HTML, and for example, we have the body. What if we change the color of the text inside the body? So we can add the style argument and put, for example, the color that we want, and everything inside the tag will have the color that we've chosen. And if there are other tags inside the tag we've customized, everything inside will be following this information. So if you have just one title, like title style, the color is blue, so the title and only the title will be blue. But if we say that the color is blue in the body tag, every text inside any tag of the body tag will be blue. And then you can customize every single tag and every single line of your HTML, but sometimes this will get bigger and bigger, and in the end will be really difficult to understand our code. So the first thing we can do is to separate the HTML content and the style content. So you can do this inside the same file, adding the style tag. and then you can put all your information. So for the H1 tag, I want this configuration. For the the P tag, I want this other definition. And for table rows, I want them to be bold. So you can customize uh, tag by tag. But even though this style tag can be really big and can have a lot of configurations, and can have a lot of lines inside of it. So what do you see in bigger projects, in enterprise projects, is a style sheet separated from the HTML file. So your HTML file will only make reference to the CSS file. And then you can add the link to your style sheet. And then inside of your CSS file, you will put only your style configuration. Okay, so you have one file for your structure, that will be the HTML file, and another file just for your style, that will be the CSS file. And also you have a lot of tags. You can define the color, the background color, the size, the type of font you want. But don't worry, again, to remember all this stuff, you can check a lot of websites online that will explain how to use these properties. And then you'll be defining the property. For example, I want to define how my table will look like, how my table head will be looking like. And then the CSS pattern allows you to make your code less complicated. So if you put like td, comma, th, you'll be telling CSS, all right, the following information you can apply to the td and the th content for both of them. And this is a way to select your content in CSS. There are a lot of different ways. You can use the multiple element selectors. You can do the descendant selector, for example. If you have, if you have, for example, two lists. The first one will be the ordered list, and inside of it, there will be an unordered list. You can customize just the second one. We've seen the use of the comma to apply to both tags, but if you use just a space between the tags, it means that I will customize the list items inside an unordered list. So you can be really specific to customize your page. And you can emphasize the information, for example, with a specific attribute, or if your user have, or if your user hovers over your image or your title, you can make it bold, or you can make it bigger, or you can change the color. And when we talk about our style, we need to think that the way we build our web page, it needs to work in any kind of screen. So you can have a bigger screen, you can have a TV, you can have a smartphone, and all these devices have different screen sizes. So it's really important for you when building your web page to think about how responsive it is, how your content will fit in your screen. And to control the style based on the screen size, you can use, for example, the add media to define the configuration based on the width of your page, or you can use the flexbox property, the flex wrap configuration that will fit every information inside of your window. Otherwise, you can set the size of your columns, or you can let it automatic, just putting the auto. And when we talk about style, there are a lot of really nice libraries on the internet with a lot of presets of configurations and properties and some nice styles that are being used in a lot of different websites. So you can use one of those. One of the most famous is Bootstrap. So when you create your HTML file and you make your reference to like this local file that you created, you can also make reference to an online file. That's how we will use Bootstrap, and that doesn't limit ourselves of making our own configuration. So we will use Bootstrap for mainly two things: to improve our responsive design and to use the Bootstrap components. You can check the whole documentation. It's online and it's open. You can access all the time, and it's really easy to put like some buttons, to put some pop-ups, and we'll be limited to use that because we haven't learned JavaScript yet. but still you can check the page and go there and try to put some components. Try to put a Bootstrap button inside of HTML. It's really easy, and the whole style of these buttons are already defined in the Bootstrap configuration. When we talk about the responsive feature of Bootstrap, we will be talking about the grid system. So when we use Bootstrap, we need to use the container class and the row class from Bootstrap. When we use the container class, we'll be putting our information inside of a limited space, split it in 12 invisible columns. Just think that your page, the visible part of your web page, it's split it in 12 columns. So when you add your information, for example, section of your row, you need to define that that is a column, okay? The column of the row, just like a table, a normal table, but you need to mention how many invisible columns this section will occupy. So remember that you have 12 columns. If you put a small number, for example, 2 or 3, it will occupy a small part of your page. But if you put bigger numbers, such as 6 or even 12, it will occupy bigger and bigger spaces of your page. So we can make these sections equal. So we can have, for example, 3 sections with 4 invisible columns of space for each one. So they have the same size. Or you can keep like 3 sections and putting the bigger one in the middle of them. So if you have 12 columns, you can put the middle one with 6 on it and 3 on the left and the right section. And similar to the flexbox feature, you can define how many columns you will use according to the size of your page. So if you have a large screen, you can show much more content on the horizontal space than like in a smartphone. So if you are on a notebook, you can show a lot of content using just one single row of Bootstrap. That's why that in this example, it says that each section will use 3 invisible columns when it is in a large screen. So if you have 4 sections, each one using 3 invisible columns, they will fit in one Bootstrap table. They will occupy the whole 12 invisible columns. You can see that they will be fit in just one single row. That won't work. That won't work in the smaller screen. You can see that each section in smaller screens will occupy 6 invisible columns. So if Bootstrap has 12 columns, we can show just 2 sections per row. That's good for the user because you can see the whole content, but they will be oriented like vertically. You will need to scroll the page to see the content. They won't be squeezed and be like really small but still in the same row. That's not a good design for mobile devices. And in the end, if we want to use variables and inheritance with CSS, we will use SAS or synthetically awesome style sheets. The awesome part, it's really humble for SAS, right? But that's the main reason. We can use variables with CSS. So think about that in your web page, you have a lot of different places that use a specific color. uh, you have one option that you can write this color in every single property, in every single configuration, and there and then you have a lot of redundancy. But otherwise, you can use sauce and set a variable in your file that will say that the main color, for example, is dark blue. So every single place that you mention this variable, the SAS will create a CSS file with this information, setting all these places with your variable with the value that you've informed. So it's easier so you can update your CSS file really fast. You don't need to check all the places you've mentioned that color or that size or that type of font. And also you have the inheritance, so you can make like a default configuration for a message, for example, and then you can make different configurations of this message. You can have the success message, you can have the error message, and usually you just have small differences between them. The basic stuff of a message is configured as a pattern, and the different kinds of messages can be configured mentioning this first template of message. So you can use SAS to make your configuration. So basically, you can use SAS to optimize your CSS development. Right, so this is the content from the lecture 0, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can send here a message on the comments down below. And well, that's it. I'll see you guys.